So first section is planning. I like memes. I used to not know what that was called. I called them memes. Apparently they're called memes. Who knew? Anyone watch the old Transformers cartoons from like the 80s and 90s? Like, best plan ever. You got friggin' robots, holding on to rockets as they launch. That sounds right. So from a planning standpoint, first you got to understand who your target is, right? Who are the people you're speaking to? I have yet to ever meet a building that writes a check. For those of you that are in B2B, it's really easy from a content perspective to start writing to a company that's buying something, right? The check may come from a company, but it's an individual in that company that you're speaking to. Every piece of content that you're creating is going to someone that is going to make that decision for you. And they're not always making that decision for rational reasons. They're making decisions for emotional reasons, for irrational reasons, for political reasons. They're not always making the right choice, but these are the people you're selling to, right? So understanding who they are, understanding what they care about, what motivates them, is an important part of doing your content planning. For those of you who are thinking about not just the company and the industry you're selling to, but who are the personas you're selling into? Who are the decision makers? Right? I was on a presentation earlier today. Someone said that the average company in B2B you're selling to has now 4.8 decision makers, not to mention the influencers and advisors and other people in the organization. Each one of those individuals has a different worldview. They may be buying the same product and service from you, but the CIO, the CTO, the CMO, the CEO, the CFO, they think about this differently. Your approach from a content standpoint needs to take that into account. When I'm doing content strategy with clients, we tend to take the first two stages of the buyer's journey from serious decisions the most seriously. Right? We're thinking top of funnel. Most companies have good content that explains what they actually do. Many companies aren't very good at aligning their content with the first two stages. First, challenge the status quo. Second, commit to change. From a sales process standpoint, before you can get to the point of actually selling someone something, you have to get them to change the way they think about something. Right? You're selling a hole, not a drill. You're trying to get someone to buy into a different version of themselves. This isn't just the top of the sales funnel. Once you have a customer, you need to constantly be reselling and reaffirming why they made that choice. That commitment to change doesn't end when they give you a PO number or when they write you a check. That commitment to change continues. And stage 0 isn't part of this serious decisions framework, but I think is important. All of this is about earning attention from your prospects, from your customers, from influencers. That comes in a lot of different ways. Jason Miller from LinkedIn talks about the 5 food groups of content marketing, and one of those he calls chocolate cake. It's okay to write stuff and to publish things that are just fun, right? On our blog post, you will find probably 3 or 4 blog posts about nachos. My business doesn't do anything with nachos, but one of our client service directors really likes nachos, so occasionally we will put some random stuff out there. Now, if we always wrote about nachos, people would probably be very confused about what we do. But we also write a lot about productivity. We do a lot of work with people that we're trying to sell to, sales and marketing leaders that are busy. They don't know how to keep track of their schedule. Their inboxes are overflowing. Helping them make better use of their day, helping them be more productive is not part of my buying journey. It's not part of my journey of trying to get them as a customer of ours, but it's a way of earning that attention. So it's important to think about with those personas, that attention piece as well. We do a lot of work with sales strategy and thinking about sales process for our clients, but there's 2 sales stages that are most important, I think. If you only had 2 sales stages to worry about or to think about, it'd be first is believe, and the second is believe in me. Most of our content, most of our sales process is part of the believe in me. It's not part of the believe. The believe doesn't have anything to do with you. The believe is about their situation, their mindset. What are they trying to solve? What problem do they have that they're not addressing today? How do you help your prospects quantify the cost of a problem that they did or didn't know that they have? How do you do that in a way that every piece of content you engage with them makes them better, makes them smarter? How do you create content that people would pay for? When we work with inside sales teams, I start with 2 rules. The first rule is when you first have that first conversation with a prospect. That first conversation, you follow up with leader, you do a cold call. Assume you can't talk about your product or service. What kind of a conversation would you have with that prospect if you couldn't talk about your product? You'd hopefully talk about them. What are their needs? What are the things that are keeping them up at night? Hopefully you know enough about your audience that you don't just ask the broad question, what keeps you up at night, but you say, I get to talk to people in your position on a daily basis, and I tend to hear the same 3 answers to those questions, right? That's what you talk about. That's what you write about. So rule number 1 for inside sales is don't talk about the product or service in the first call. Rule number 2 is when that prospect hangs up, I want them to lean back in their chair and say either actually or proverbially, wow, that was awesome, I would have paid for that, right? How do you create content people would pay for? It's not about volume. You may give someone a 100-word blog post. and that's all they need. I've been a member of a group called the Entrepreneur Organization for the past 2 years, short for EO, and I can tell you, after 2 years of paying dues and being part of those events, the value I get out of that group can be summarized on one piece of paper, one-sided piece of paper. The insights I've gotten occasionally from that group. The value and intelligence and insight you can give to your prospects and to your clients and your content isn't about volume. It's not about the longest white paper. It's not about quantity. It's often about quantity or quality.